Hey, Randy here. Thank you for clicking into the sermon for this week. I hope we can be a benefit or a blessing to you as you watch and listen. And our prayer is that Jesus would become more real to you than ever before. God bless you. Teresa are so grateful for them. All marriages are less than perfect. And that's not just a nice thing to say. Imperfect people make up imperfect marriages. And when we compare ourselves of other marriages and other people and other couples, it's soon that we become ourselves very dissatisfied with our own marriage and sometimes with ourselves. Audrey Hepburn once said, "If I get married, I want to be very married." I like that. I think most of us who are married or are planning on getting married want to be very married, meaning we want that relationship to be full, and we want it to be everything that we hope it will be. And when I think about marriage, I think about two images, and I went online and found them. Here's the first image that comes to my mind is that's just a great picture. And I'm a photographer, very amateur photographer, but I liked that photo. I love the bouquet in focus, and then the bokeh involved in taking the picture of the couple in the background. That's how we start, and that's how we think it should go. But the next image kind of talks about what sometimes can happen in marriage. And I think about...
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Please. So when we were talking about this, conversing, as you would say, as sometimes you do, I just wanted to make sure if you're not married yet, if you want to get married again, don't check out. Please don't check out, because maybe someday you want to, maybe someday you want to get married again. But also, just so you can kind of also maybe understand married people, because sometimes you can look at someone married and go, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that." So don't check out. And then the last part of that was just that there's absolutely no cookie cutter marriage. It's like a path. I want to say a journey, but that's so overused. But to me, it's like a hike. You never know which way you're going to turn, where it's going to take you, whether you're going to go up or down, or what it is. But as you said before, if you look at another couple, you're either going to feel better about yourself or you're going to feel worse about yourself. So I just kind of wanted to frame our whole morning in that there's no cookie cutter.
Yeah,
I wish.
Yeah. How many of you have been married for more than 40 years? Let me see your hands. Okay, how about, well, you're old. How many of you been married over 50 years? Let me see your, oh, come on. Seriously? Okay, 55 years.
Okay.
How many have been married less than a year? How many of you have been married less than 6 months? How many have been married less than 24 hours? Stand up. Stand up. Mark, Cindy, stand up. Thank you. I set you up for that, and you knew I was setting you up for that. I was a part of their wedding yesterday at 3 o'clock, and you're still married. I'm good. Mark and Cindy are my friends, and they live over in Vistancia, and we had a great time with your friends as well, and a very moving time, and it was a special time. So thank you for letting me be a part of your special day. You're welcome. The first thing I want to talk about, and what I think is important for us to communicate to you, is number one, is admit you're powerless over your mate. You barely can control yourself. Matthew 7 says, "And why not worry about a speck in the eye of your brother when you yourself have a board, or depending on your version of the Bible, a log in your own?" For Judy and I, we have realized early on that we have very little control over each other.
Sorry.
We just started.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and say what you're thinking.
No, keep going.
No, please.
Someone's strong-willed.
Oh, yeah, as if you're not. Yeah.
And someone's innocent. Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. Keep going. I apologize.
There are ways to influence each other. We can positively influence each other through prayer. We can positively extend goodwill. And I remember this was about 11, 12 years ago. I went to work. I went to work, and I was an associate pastor at the time. And I said to my senior pastor, I said, I'm late because I was saving a marriage. And he goes, good for you. I said, yeah, my own. And he says, even better for you. And as we started talking, I realized that we and me were not extending goodwill to each other. And goodwill, extending goodwill to somebody is giving the person the benefit of the doubt and not assuming the worst. And I went home that night with this new revelation, which it was. It's changed our marriage. And I just said, I'm going to extend goodwill. I'm going to assume the best. And so you said something, and I said, yeah, you're right, I'm wrong. And you turned to me and you said, well, you don't have to be snarky about it. And I thought, well, fair, because up until that day, I was snarky about it. And at that point, I said, no, I'm serious. I was wrong and you're right. And it changed your demeanor, it changed your attitude. I don't know, do you remember that conversation?
I do, and he's making himself sound like, and honestly for me, for a very long time, I just assumed whatever was said was meant as kind of a punch or a jab. I didn't take it. I did not assume good of him either. So that was a really good conversation for both of us, because it made me, when for some reason my brain said he meant that mean, or worse, I'm not good enough so I deserve that, or I've heard it happen before. So God really stopped me and said, he said, I'm enough for you. And that kind of shook my world, and it still does to this day. But when I get to that point where I think he's being mean, or I stop and I think, I'm going to assume he means good until I talk to him, then I'm going to punch him. But honestly, going off that point as well, God just told me it never was my calling or my job. I think I took that iron sharpens iron verse like this is my task. I have to make him a better man. And okay, number one, he doesn't want it, obviously. But as we, wait, I'm coming out really snarky today, sorry. I hear it. But I don't want it either. Like, I want us to grow together. And in 1 Timothy 3:11, it just said God is faithful in all things. So that's been so good for me, because there are things that bother me that he has no clue of, and I don't have sometimes the courage to bring up, and that's on me. But I just assume somehow he's going to read my mind, and God's going to tell him what's bothering me, and that's on me.
Number 2, own your own crud. I've never said the word crud in a sermon, so I just thought today would be a good day to try it. But it's the truth. Own your own, and that is, yes, you have your own. And when his or her junk bothers you more than your own junk, you're probably too consumed with their junk. James chapter 1 says, look into the mirror daily. It says, James says, but be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his own face in a mirror. And it's the concept of looking into a mirror and walking away and forgetting what you see. And it's easy to weigh and compare the issues that Judy has, and it's easy for Judy to weigh the issues that I have. And you know that's happening when these 3 sentences start appearing. Well, at least I didn't do that. Who could possibly have said that? Or I would or could never have said or done that. And it's you're putting yourself in this superior place and looking down like, I'm bad, but to do or say what you said or did, I would never.
Okay, and I said, be brave. Be brave to do that. That is so hard. It's so easy to say all those things. It is so
Be brave to do what?
It's brave to own your own crud.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so much easier to try and cover it up and hide it and think nobody sees it, and probably 9 times out of 10, nobody does see it.
Yeah.
But you know it's there. So it's that being brave. And then the other thing that just really, even as you're speaking, It's be brave to stand by him when he shares his crud. When he tells you his crud, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, well, I can fix that. I know what to do to make it all right. And for me, it's just shut my mouth, hold it in, listen to everything, and then wait and see if maybe he just needs to tell someone what he's going through or what he's facing or what's scaring him or not scaring him or it's just a sin that he has. And instead of, I just want it to be better and everybody to be happy and love each other, so I just want to fix it. And I've just been so convicted not to do that, but also I just know it takes a lot to hold yourself back. It takes a lot to say yes and also to open it up and say, share with me. I'd love to hear that. Because your whole world, when he's not okay, my whole world starts to shake. The foundation shakes a little. Because you're supposed to have it all together, and then I'll just kind of, help you sometimes. So owning your own crud is hard.
Number 3, thank you. Evaluate your expectations. Your expectations may not actually be too high, they just may be different. Ephesians 4 tells us to be patient. It says, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love. And when I think about expectations, I don't necessarily have higher expectations for you than me. They're just different expectations. And I have to be patient with that, because I just assume in this scenario, any normal, reasonable human would do that.
I agree.
Maybe that's a problem.
That.
Yes. And I think evaluating expectations I think it's one of the hardest things, because we don't like to assume that we have expectations. One of the first things that we do, and I've done in pre-marriage advisement, and I don't know if Will and Nicole, you're there, yeah. So do you guys use Parrot and Parrot, Les Parrot's material, Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts? So one of the things that I like about Parrot and Parrot, that whole system, is the first question is, what rules do you bring into the marriage? It's one of the first chapters. And what you realize is that in our family, so in our Williams clan, we have rules that are unwritten. And then, so 2 of our kiddos are married, and they brought rules that they didn't know were rules into the marriage. And then, so these 2 couples, so David and Tatum being our oldest, and Tyler and Katie being our middle kiddos, they've had to come and bring expectations like, well, that's naturally, you just don't do that. Or every time you do that. I remember Katie, so that's our middle, Tyler's wife. She spent a lot of time with us because her family's up in Colorado, and we adore her family and her folks, and her brother adore them. And one time I asked, how is your family different than ours? And it was silly, and it was fun, and it's an easy one to share. But when we would pull into the driveway, I would stop, and everyone would load out, and then I would pull into the garage, and they would pull into the garage, and everyone would load. And I went, that's an odd, fun, cute thing. And then I realized, well, the reason is because our garage is too full and the doors can't open. And I thought, I remembered that because that's just a small one, but there's 100 that now that they're married a year and in a month, there's probably all kinds of things. Like, well, we always load the dishwasher and run it and empty it before we go to bed. And Tyler says, no, we don't do that at all. And so that's conflict. And so it's expectations. Those are small ones, but they, of course, can be bigger.
I'm going to jump in, too, just because.
Of course you are.
Of course I am. Because I actually told him he could combine this point and he should probably, it wasn't really important. And then all of a sudden God said, no, wait, and stop. And this is just really quick, but I think it also depends on your stage in life. I'm in a new stage of life, and it has nothing to do with my age. We had 2 marriages and lost my dad this last year. And like, life is short. All of a sudden, there's new urgency in my heart and in my life that life is short. I need to show up every day, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's at school, or here on Sunday mornings. I have to show up, and that each day is a gift. And then the verse that also was just in Deuteronomy 129, because I'm trying to read the Bible. It's probably going to take me like 3 years. But in Deuteronomy 129, it just said, God said, don't be afraid. The Lord your God goes before you. And then it references back to the 40 years where they wandered in the wilderness. And God just really spoke to me that show up. Show up. You don't know. Today's a gift. Tomorrow's a gift. And for some reason, 2 children getting married and losing my dad once again was refreshed in me. I need to evaluate my expectations for every day, but also really remember, this is the day I've been given, which was a huge change. Surprise.
No, that could almost stop right there. That's a good one. Thank you. Number 4, reach out for help earlier than later. Don't be a jackass.
Evaluate your expectations.
Please don't. Please, but get help.
I agree.
And Cowboy John deals with donkeys. You know the stubbornness of a donkey. So you know, by the way, jackass is in the Bible, so just chill out. Galatians 6 says this, live creatively, friends. If someone falls in sin, forgivingly restore him. This is in the Message. I love the way that Peterson put this. Saving your critical comments for yourself, you might be needing forgiveness before the day is out. You may be needing forgiveness before the day is out. I love that. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed, share their burdens, and so complete Christ's law. If you think you're too good for that, you are badly deceived. Get help earlier, not later. I wrote down 3 reasons, and I stopped and said hi to my brother yesterday, Friday in his office, and I ran by this point with him. I said, you've met with a lot of couples. What would you think? Reach out. Why do people not reach out earlier? And I said, these are mine 3. I said, resources, time or money. Although there's free options or cheap ones. Pastors are always free. 2, indifference. You don't care anymore, in which I can't do much about that one. 3rd one is I wrote pride. That's like a donkey. Pride says, I don't need anyone. I have this. I'm going to do it my way. And then he thought of another one. He goes, how about head in your sand, denial? And I went, oh, yeah. Like it'll just get better all on its own. A couple that knows that better than anyone. Can you turn your pack off for me? Mm-hmm. Michael and Teresa, where are you? Come on up here for a second. Michael and Teresa. Teresa works on staff in our children's ministry. And what I like about, do you have the mic? Thank you, Sean. And her pack is off, so we're good. The one thing that I heard about your story is how many years, come on in here in the light. I know you feel uncomfortable standing in front of Judy, but we're good. How many years ago were you guys in trouble? Oh, you got a mic issue. Here we go. It's coming. Thank you, Michael.
19?
Yeah,
Hold that.
It was before the last Cleveland Browns playoff game, so.
That's where we're going, right?
It was roughly 20 years ago, yeah.
Okay. And you guys were done.
Yep.
Yeah.
D-U-N, done.
We filed for divorce. Yep, we're done.
You would have filed and it would have stuck, except I love this part of the story. I love this part of the story. Tell everyone this.
Well, Michael, he likes to be called frugal. I call him cheap. Yeah. But so we decided that, he decided we weren't going to involve lawyers, so we were going to do it ourselves. But God had other plans, and thankfully God knew that he was frugal.
So you tried 3 times to file, but he messed it up 3 times.
He messed it up 3 times. So finally I'm like, all right, I'll just stay with him. No. it's not worth it anymore.
I sent you this outline yesterday, and in talking and setting up for children's ministry this morning, I said, which one resonated? And I told Judy, I'm guessing it's this one, and it was. I'd love for you guys to talk about reach out for help earlier than later.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we didn't reach out for help. I guess for me, I was done. I was angry. I hated life. I didn't like you. I loved my girls, but life had just fallen apart around us, and we were done. I stopped going to church. I ran from God, but He kept pursuing me, and thankfully I had I had a few amazing sisters that were praying for me, and the other ones turned their back. But I'm a baby of 12, so I did have quite a few people praying for me.
Yeah. So it reminds me of that Phil Collins song, You Live and We're Separate Lives. You guys got to the point where you were literally living separate lives, just like the song.
Yeah.
You moved out.
I moved out. We were living a couple separate lives.
Push that a little higher for me. Thank you.
The first comment here, where you barely have control over yourself, you don't have control over your mate, that resonated with me. Reaching out for help resonated with me. This next one that you're going to talk about is forgive, forgive, forgive. And that's what needs to happen in order to start the restoration process. So I guess from my perspective, that's where it was at. I was at a point where I couldn't control what she was doing or what she wasn't doing, and I just had to focus on what I could do. And then when we did get back together, it was more of allowing God to be a bigger part of our marriage in order for it to work.
So I asked the question in staff meeting to you on Tuesday, how long did it take for the feelings to come back? And I was expecting to hear you say a week or 10 days. How long did you tell us that it took?
When he moved back, it was still a good 4 or 5 months before we were actually.
4 or 5 months. He wants to say something, and I'm dying to know what he's thinking.
So the way I think of it is when a tornado goes through and rips up a bunch of houses, you have a choice to either, go build somewhere else, or you can build back here. And when you build back here, it was us own personal building it back. So maybe the first year we only had the bathroom done, and that's where we were living at.
Wow.
And the
Great
second year we
analogy.
had a family room and a bathroom.
Yes.
And and people are saying, why did you build back there? Or other people would say, are you scared to build back there or anything like that? And we just had to decide that, this is where we're going to build. We're going to use this foundation, and we're going to build our house back right where the tornado went through. Wow. And we're going to trust God that it's not going to happen again.
Wow, a great analogy. Last question is, I follow you on Facebook, and you talk about your favorite human, and you're looking forward to each other. Your relationship today is better than maybe even your first year of marriage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you better today because of that tornado that went through your marriage?
Oh, I would say definitely. I mean, it's not something that we're proud of by any means, but God allowed us to go through that, and we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't gone through that. And we wouldn't have Clara either, so.
Yeah. We love Clara, and we love you guys.
And our relationship, even with Christ, wouldn't be as strong because we put Him first, and that's when we really dove headfirst into small group, into church with our pastor. We got involved and became members, and we got involved with youth and kids, and then I got hired on to ministry, and so God had big plans. Yeah.
Wow, thanks for your transparency. You got one more thing to say?
One more thing.
That's okay.
And
Yep.
to piggyback on the reach out for help earlier than later, although the situation worked for us and we're stronger now because of it, people that are going through this don't have to go through it alone. and if you can reconcile without having to go through what we went through, and reaching out to people that have went through it or have experience with it or love you and care for you, so that you don't have to go through what we went through and still move forward, that would be highly suggested.
Great advice. Thank you so much. If you could take that back. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Okay, we've got to move real quickly. Number 5, forgive. Forgive. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me? Forgive, but don't forget. Forgive, but you can't forget. Forgive is wish them well. Forgive is not hold a grudge. Forgive is not wanting revenge. Forgive is not wanting them to pay for what they've done. Forgive. But remembering, we use that passage in the scriptures where it says, God forgave and dumped your sin, and he forgot what you have done and dropped it in the middle of the ocean. And we get this idea that because God did that, by the way, God really didn't do that. It's figurative, it's poetic. God doesn't forget things. And we can't forget things. And if we've been hurt by our spouse, and if there was an addiction involved, we've got to remember that he or she is capable of that again. And so forgiving is not, here, I forgive you. Now, here, take the credit card with the boys as you go to the casino, or if you're going to business in Vegas, oh yeah, just go alone. No, that's stupid. Let's figure out a plan, knowing that each of us are capable of certain things. So remembering is learning from the situation, becoming wise about life and relationships, learning about yourself, learning about the other person. Set boundaries, and boundaries are not punitive. Boundaries are healthy. Setting a boundary is not mistrusting. It's not being unspiritual. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say to that one?
Mine was just, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Just stopping and truly asking myself, what can I learn? What can I learn? Not from what happened with him, what happened with me. What can I learn?
Number 6, time is flying, but this is a good one. Invest in your marriage. Murray Osmond once said, when you have a baby, love is automatic, and when you get married, love is earned. There's some things that you just got to work on. There's something about blood, it's different. And I think about, I used to drive by often the driving range there on, I want to say Pinnacle Peak, and I see guys out there. So because I was on my way home every day, I would see them out there. It's 37 degrees in the morning. I'd see them in the summer at 142 degrees. And these guys are working on their short game and their driver and their putting. And I think about the work that we put into our homes, our hobbies, our vacations, our boats. But what kind of investment are we making in our marriage? And we just assume because there's a wedding band, now we got that one done. You know, it's the old line, you know, I told her I loved her 50 years ago, and I told her if it ever changed, I'd let her know. And I wrote down date night weekly. I mean a real one. Not like go to Subway and grab something to eat and call it a date night. Have a date night. Our kids used to love date nights. Remember that? Because they'd get the remote and we'd always order them a pizza. And they're like, we'd come home and, what's for dinner? I don't know. And they'd all yell together, date night. They're like, get out.
So date night too, though, when we had lots of little kids around us, which was only 3, but it felt like a lot.
Felt like 9.
Date night was us going to Starbucks, splitting a Frappuccino.
because we were broke.
They were eating the 99-cent mac and cheese at home and, happy they're gay. But as I'm looking at date night now, it's once again showing up to date night. And I think one of the hardest things is the phone, putting our phones away, because sometimes they're more interesting than our date. And then, I'm going to be so troubled. But I just was thinking of what would be a practical how-to with that. And the practical how-to I think that we started with was we synced our calendars together. So we talk about our calendar, we talk about, it's like just it's stress-free talking. What's your week look like? What's mine? And then for myself, when I look at my own calendar, what's going on today, I see, oh, he has a meeting with so-and-so or a meeting with so-and-so there. It added a level of transparency between us, but it also added a talking point too. When we got home together, how did that meeting go, or how is so-and-so? And it was just a really easy, non-threatening way to make date night deeper. And then, of course, when you start talking about that, and when he answered that question right, then I could move on to question 2. And then, because I typically don't want to come out with the things that's super close to my heart right away, I want to test, is he listening? Okay, we'll just watch football together tonight. Or is he open for me to say that deeper, harder thing that I really want to talk to him about, that I want to cover myself too?
Will and Nicole are starting a series. Is it this week? 21st. And you charge, what, $1,000 a couple? You'll what? Half off? It's 10 flippin' dollars. It's that easy and that cheap. Join a marriage enrichment small group. Everyone that goes to your group, they love your group. You and Nicole love people. You're never shocked on what's said. You give them extra time all day long. You will meet them anytime they want. It's free. It's easy. You got it. Just take advantage of it. Attend a marriage conference. Now, February 1 is Gary Chapman, The Love Languages. But it's great for marriages, but it's not just for love language. We know what our kids' love language are. We know what each of our love languages are. It's going to be a great 6 hours. It's, Jeff, how much is that thing? $1,040? I will pay it. You will pay it, wouldn't you? Yeah, in a heartbeat. You can't afford it. I will pay for you to go. And as you heard, you get a chicken sandwich in the middle of it as well. Commit to attend church 8 weeks in a row. Some people have problems. They go to church for 2-3 weeks, and then they fall off, and they start getting lazy. I liken it to our CrossFit. We started in June. We go every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We cannot miss one. Do you know why we cannot miss one? I'll tell you why. I'm not even going to ask you why we can't miss one. I'm going to tell you why we can't miss one. Because if we miss one, you know what the temptation is?
2.
We'll miss 2. And then 3. And then 10, and then we quit. And then we call, and we no longer send our money because we're not using it. Go to church. And I know it's sounds a little self-serving because I'm kind of here.
I wanted to add to that too, is
Please.
just trust God for his version of your life. That was just, in going to church, I thought,
Yeah,
you
that's a
come
good
to church sometimes and we're usually clean, we're usually dressed a little bit, but trust God for your version. He knew you before you were born. He knows where you are now. He knows every single bit of your life, and he can use it. So we're coming here to learn more about him, but just trust him that he's got you, and it's okay to walk the life he's given you the way that he's calling you to, and just trust him for that.
And then the last point is Romans 12:10. Outdo one another in showing honor. Outdo one another. Invest. Outdo the other. Give, give, give. I heard someone say, we're 50-50 in fault. No, we're 100 in fault. You completely own your junk. He or she's going to completely own and take care of theirs. Start with yours. Our time is up. Next week is dealing with what was it? A tough child, an impossible child.
Yes.
And so if you have a friend or a family member that could use that Next week, dealing with an impossible child. Every week, if you go to arizonahills.org/family, you'll see the whole list of each of the weeks coming up in the next 5 weeks. Instead of